Well, I was actually directing a play up at Interact Theater Company in Philadelphia that was Jewish themed. And my assistant director one day came in with this article from the New York Times and said, "You ought to look at this. It might be relevant to the play we're working on, and also relevant. Might be something that you might be interested in thinking about for a play." And I read this article, and it was this, I guess, somewhat well-read New York Times article about these last two Jews of Kabul, named Zebulon and Isaac Levin. I read this article and thought, this is a great play. There's something here. It's got inherent drama, and that these two guys were being oppressed. That they they hated each other was sort of both existentially funny and somehow appropriately Jewish in a great tradition of Jewish plays and so forth. And so I thought about it, and what I often do with my plays is as I get to know my characters, I let them tell me what should come next, and they did, and came up with this idea that in order for their community to survive, that they'd have to write a Torah, which would be this act of faith in a literal sense, but also being able to work with each other. And I think Zebulon, in the course of the play, asks more profound and more tricky questions for us, and it's actually that which Ishak comes to realize makes him, in fact, a good Jew, I guess, is the best way of saying it, because in Judaism, questioning is valued.
Right.
And a lot of his questions early in the play are minutia about why can't an elephant. Why can we eat elephants but not rock badgers, as defined in the Torah? But later, the questions become really big questions that can be asked in any religion, and they are important questions to ask. And if we don't ask these questions, we're sort of blind. And Zebulon is going to be at the end of the play he's going to be more religious in some ways, but he's going to be a questioning man. Could they leave? Of course they could leave, but I don't think they feel they could leave. The fact that their families leave doesn't mean that it's so simple for them to just walk away. I think they talk about it, but there's something in them that is saying, you can't leave. Right. And, I think what I admire about Zebulon is that he is fiercely defiant about not wanting to give up just because yet another government in another country has said, you Jews again have to leave. We're going to make it hard for you. He doesn't want to just continue that. And in Ishak's case, he believes that this is part of a plan, and if he gives up, he's basically giving up on God's plan. It's essentially acknowledging that everything he believes is not true. So are they foolish? Well, probably. Their lives haven't been good, and they won't get better. On the other hand, they are being guided by something that they believe in, and it must give them some sense of purpose that many people don't have. A lot of people, I think, in our country are never faced with the kind of circumstances that Ishak and Zebulon are, even close. When we talk about governments not supporting us and the things that are going on in this country, it's not anywhere like the Taliban in Afghanistan, or a country that has never known peace. We've known peace most of our history, in fact, especially on our territory. So I do think they're foolish, but I also think there's something compelling, and that's why we write plays. We don't write plays about ordinary people making ordinary choices. That's just not interesting. We're looking at things that are extraordinary. These two guys are extraordinary in why they're choosing to stay, and also that they hate each other in a situation where they naturally should be bonding. Not being someone who is of faith at all, I am deeply compelled by people who are, because something is guiding them in a way that helps them live their life peacefully and make choices which I might find crazy, and yet they seem at peace. Even people who live through brutally difficult situations, and you could dismiss it and say they're just ignorant. But at the same time, faith has gotten a lot of people through a lot of terrible things throughout history, and to dismiss it, I think, is just wrong-headed.